I always feel that I need to have a trusting relationship, and if I don't have a therapeutic relationship with a person, then I've got nothing. There was a major rock and roll band that I spent 6 months on the road with. I won't mention their name, of course, but they wanted me in New York that afternoon, and I said, well, you know what? You've lasted 40 years without me. I think you can wait till tomorrow.
Welcome to Humanity in the Age of AI. Today we are blessed to have Woody Giessmann with us. He's got an extremely interesting background, over 30 years as a licensed counselor, in recovery, just hit his 36th anniversary, and a legendary member of one of Boston's famous bands, the Del Fuegos. He's opened for ZZ Top. Tom Petty played on one of his albums, and he's got a very, very interesting perspective on how he brings together counseling, art, music, therapy, and also how has AI impacted his practice. I'm ShubhalokG. My mother and grandparents were freedom fighters with Gandhi, so I've always surrounded my career with change, and I'm a trained tabla player with a side project called Ganges Delta Blues right now. The last 6.5 years, I've been doing digital transformation in healthcare, and currently I have a very keen interest in the intersection of creativity, artificial intelligence, and great companies and practices like Woody's. Woody, with that, I'll hand it over to you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your practice, and this amazing journey that you've been on.
Thank you, and thank you for having me this morning. It's always wonderful to talk about recovery and substance use and treatment. As I said to you before, my book is available on Amazon and 20 other platforms, Barnes and Nobles, etc. And it was actually narrated by a dear friend of mine, Simon Kirk, one of the founding members of the band Bad Company. He was just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and just a dear friend of mine. But as I talk about in my book, I'm in long-term recovery, and I was instructed to write this book by the family group that I run. It's a biweekly family group, virtual if anyone's interested. I speak at length about how someone can be true to their true authentic self. As we all learn, substance use and mental health tend to override people's sensibility, and it's what I want to do is what I've done for myself and some of my friends in recovery is reestablish life on life's terms and pick up on those pieces that of your life that were hijacked by addiction or mental health. I not only am I in long-term recovery from a substance use disorder, but I've spent years working for the Department of Mental Health with people with severe, persistent mental health issues. If you pick up my book,
hey, say the title.
So the title is A Life of Recovery, Breaking the Chains of Addiction.
Got it.
I speak at length about the untimely death of my brother, who had an active substance use issue, untreated mental health, and it ended. He took his own life in the end, and it was tragic. For me, it was a tragedy, and but it was also a gift. It has helped me as a counselor be a better listener, and be able to pick up on those cues that I hear from people on how or why are they self-medicating. I always look, and in my book, I talk a lot about Dr. Albanese, working with Mark Albanese, who is a psychiatrist and a board-certified addictionologist. I worked with him extensively at Cambridge Hospital, and he was the medical director for my clinic, Right Turn, for many years. He's a dear friend of mine. And he wrote the book on understanding addiction as self-medication. And I feel very, very strongly about that. That book changed the landscape of treatment for so many people, including myself. I'm very grateful to have that, not only that long-term relationship with Mark, but also those tools in my toolbox to be a good listener and hear what it is the person is, not what they're telling me, but what they're trying to tell me. And in general, the substance use is a symptom of a greater underlying issue that really needs to be addressed. You know, I always feel that I need to have a trusting relationship. And if I don't have a therapeutic relationship with a person, then I've got nothing. So I always like to come from a place of being able to build that trust and hopefully improve the insight and judgment of the individual or the family that I'm working with. You know, I'm a board certified interventionist, and I've done dozens and dozens over the years, hundreds
Hey,
of
before we go into that, right? So
Yes.
you talked a lot about your brother impacting your life, right? And from what I know, and these statistics could be old, but I believe the relapse rate is over 90% still, despite all this amazing stuff that we have. So before you move into that, what are three things that you think that you do in your practice that helps these patients, right, in this disease?
Well, that's a really good question. I think the first thing is, and I use my own personal experiences as well as an example of recovery is possible. And it's not an event, it's a journey. And it's a way that people can find hope. And I want to share that. That's my responsibility to show them that I understand they've lost hope and that they feel helpless. And so to maybe shine some light on the fact that people this is an opportunity for people to build a new life. It's a gift. You know, I always think of as a person who acknowledges that I have a substance use disorder. Recovery is a gift. Secondly, I think to acknowledge the fact that there's no one way of going about this. Some people go into long-term therapy. I personally have been in and currently still am in long-term therapy. It's a gift, and it's wonderful to be able to practice self-care in that way. And there's a whole list of things that people can be doing for self-care, from exercise to diet and everything else. But thirdly, you know, we're in an age where we have medications, and I'm not aggressive with medications, but I do know that there are some medications that we can rely on to help people get through those early stages of post-acute withdrawal and that cycling of having sleeping issues, sleep dysregulation, emotional dysregulation, stress, and memory, short-term memory issues. So I'm a big advocate for medication-assisted treatment. So those would be my 3 points right there. If we discover that there is an underlying issue, long story short, I had a young man in my office. Well, he was 50 years old, not that young. And he said, I have a terrible problem with alcohol. And we know that alcohol is a depressant. So I said to him, so how long have you been depressed? And he looked at me just baffled. He said, how did you know I was depressed? And I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense. You know, you're drinking alcohol and there's no mistake, no mystery why we refer to alcohol as spirits. You're self-medicating with alcohol. So let's work on both. Let's remove the alcohol use if you're willing. And secondly, let's acknowledge the fact that you do have either a clinical depression or covert depression, that hidden inside sadness that needs to be addressed. And talk therapy is the best way that I know how to reach that.
Fantastic. So you focused a little bit on medicated assisted. So in the practice, is there different schools of thought on that? You define that as being unique. Is that not always part of the recovery in terms of the assessment of the mental health?
Yeah, I kind of think of myself as one of the pioneers of medication-assisted treatment. I opened a clinic back in 2003, and we began to use medications for people who were experiencing difficulty with cravings and urges and withdrawal symptoms.
Okay.
Medications like naltrexone, buprenorphine, Vivitrol. To assist people with the early stages of recovery and the difficulties that they may experience. And I look at the outcomes, and I was seeing at that time that it really improved people's chances of staying in treatment. And as we all know, the longer you're in treatment, the better the outcome. Now, I took a lot of elbowing from people. I'm trying to be diplomatic here. People would say, why are you giving people drugs when they have drug problems? And I say, no, these are not drugs. Drugs you buy on the street. These are medications. And I prefer to work with someone who's alive. And these are life-saving medications. I'm highly interested in the GLP-1 research going on right now. So we're moving forward here, and medication-assisted treatment can help. It's not for everyone, but it certainly will improve your moods, and you're not ruminating and thinking about relapsing, and we can certainly avoid a lapse of substance use with these medications.
Talk a little bit about that GLP-1 research. I think that's interesting from an overall perspective, and how that might impact the care of these patients.
Okay, well, so that's interesting, and I there's a lot to learn about the GLP-1s. It's new technology. I find it to be very useful in that it arrests that the cravings. It goes down deep into the limbic system, down into the part of the emotional part of the brain where addiction occurs. And so my hope is, and what we're seeing is, that people with an alcohol use disorder lose that it's the impulsivity, it's that desire to impulsively pick up a drink to medicate themselves. And while some doctors are prescribing it off-label at this point for,
Okay.
including one doctor that I just recently spoke with, who said she told me that she has 2 people with an alcohol use disorder, and it's been very, very successful in arresting that impulsiveness to drink again. So I would love to fast forward a few years to see where we are with that. But it's still, at this point, it's in the research.
But are they pursuing an indication? Is it in phase 2 or 3?
You know, I'm not an authority in this area, man. I
Gotcha.
don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how to
No
respond to
worries.
that.
That's okay. Yeah, I come from that pharma world, so that's why I asked. The multiple indications is usually what they go after. So I haven't learned
Sure,
much about the mental aspect of
sure,
GLP-1.
sure.
So in your practice, you've got this great background in music, right? Has that informed a different way? I've never heard about music therapy and addiction, or do you have do musicians, do they know you and come to you? How has that impacted your practice? I'm obviously a huge music fan, so.
Yeah. Well, my reputation as an addiction specialist in the music world is, I mean, I'm pretty well known nationally, if not internationally. And in 2003, I opened up a clinic that was primarily focused on experiential therapies of music and art and creativity. And you don't have to be an artist to come to work with me, but it's not uncommon that I use writing as as a tool in the toolbox to stimulate the brain in a healthy way, which will encourage recovery of the neural pathways that have been damaged, those opioid and kind of which will encourage the healing of the dopamine and the system in the brain.
So is there any recent studies in music therapy or anything that you guys reference when you talk to patients, or is it just part of you?
Well, I've had a number of experiences. It was not too long ago that I spoke at Berklee School of Music with a couple of neurologists who provided um, images of the brain and how music stimulates the brain, in more of like ambient music or classical music, and how it stimulates the outer neocortex of the brain down to hip hop and jazz and rock music, and how it gets deeper into the limbic system and stimulates the brain in other ways. The same way we use meditation and other mindfulness practices, music can be a very healing avenue for people to take. I'm a big believer in meditation and mindfulness practices.
How do you recommend that to your patients? Are they open to apps? Are they open to, is there one way that you recommend, or a school?
Well, it's interesting. Actually, one of my clients right now is currently working for an AI mental health program, and they are looking at mindfulness practices, DBT, cognitive behavioral practices to again rescue the brain from active addiction and help. When we're thinking about trauma, I think of trauma as not what happened to you, but more what happened inside of you. And I think of trauma as an open wound that needs to be healed, and it takes time. And so AI can assist with those types of breathing exercises, meditation. I prefer guided meditation. I created a guided meditation in my clinic with a wonderful social worker who we used the guitar for a 10-minute meditation and breathing and learning to first off, remembering to breathe
Yeah.
and controlling your breathing and regaining control over, but at the same time, stimulating the brain in a healthy way.
You know what's amazing? My dad taught me transcendental when I was 10 years old,
Okay.
and I could never get to any peace for about, I don't know, 30 years, right? And I basically was in a massage session, and she was absolutely killing me. And she said, "You're not breathing right." And I used to think I was, I knew my breathing because I was a meditator, right? I knew it. And literally in 3 minutes, she taught me an 8-12 method that completely changed my meditation, because instead of focusing on the mantra, I focused on the breath.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what everyone misses, right? That, and that they're all looking for nirvana like day one, but that never comes. It's the journey, not the
Yeah.
destination, And so I'm a huge, huge fan of meditation. I tend to do it these days with Bible verses, but everyone's got their different school. I think it's extremely important. It's interesting that you relate that to an AI company. So, AI is transforming mental therapy. It's transforming all kinds of different places. We had one therapist that came on the show and stated that he's developing a vehicle for 24/7 support of his patients, not a revenue generator, interestingly, but just so, because he can't be available and his practice can't be available 24/7. What are your thoughts on simple uses of that, or how it may impact your practice?
Well, I mean, that's interesting because, people that come to me are usually in crisis mode. And, I made a joke to my wife the other day. I feel like I'm working 7 days a week. And she said, well, make it 8 days a week, and then you can write a song about it. That was my little Beatles.
You see my Beatles album behind me.
Right. Yeah. And, so I'm always on call, but my clients respect me. And, I just don't feel like there's any substitute for that human touch. I may be wrong about that. I do know that there are tools, and we are working with AI to develop tools. But when someone's in trouble, and I'll use my brother for example, he really needed help, and what was going on with him was overlooked. Now, this was a long time ago, before they really fully understood.
What year was this?
Oh, geez.
Approximately.
In the late 70s.
Late 70s. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Just for perspective.
Yeah. And, there was a definite cry for help. And so I think it takes a skilled person to
So you were still using at this point?
I'm sorry?
You weren't in recovery yet when this happened, correct?
Correct. No, I was 16 years old, and he was 19 years old.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Wow, 19.
Yeah.
So sorry, brother.
Yeah, thanks. Brian Gilmore Giessmann, an amazing musician, an amazing drummer,
Amazing drummer. Wow.
Yeah. Who always told me, don't touch my drums. And I'm like, okay. But after he was gone, I just picked him up and ran with it. Came to Boston and ended up in LA beating the hell out of the Skins.
Nice. Was he in a band?
He was.
Okay.
He was.
Anything I'd know, or?
No.
Okay. Got it. But he inspired the Del Fuegos, correct?
He inspired me.
Yeah.
And he continues to inspire me.
Mm.
Uh,
So
he's
you talked about the human touch, right? A lot of people are now in the therapy world, to keep up with competition. They're utilizing AI in their marketing practices. Is that an area in the next 2 to 3 years that you would consider, or any thoughts on that from an overall perspective? You've obviously got a great background, a very unique approach that you bring to your practice. How do you see yourself marketing yourself?
Yeah. So, and if you throw in social media, I mean, I have tens of thousands of people on across Facebook and Instagram, etc. Um, I find that AI can be helpful in documentation,
Okay.
even though I still need to review everything. That because AI is not 100%. I mean, obviously, marketing is not a big deal for me because my reputation has carried me. I'm highly in demand,
Okay.
and so that's not a problem. I'm easy to reach.
Okay.
I always answer the phone. Um, as I said before, I'm an interventionist, and so families call me, and that at the when they're at the on the edge of disaster and within the family dynamic, and they needed me yesterday. And I have a very successful intervention model that I've created over the years with a lot of supervision from Dr. Judith Landau, who is the queen of research around substance use disorder and family dynamics. So families call me, and I like to, because I have a long history of travel with music, the music business.
Yeah.
I can pack a bag and be on the road within 10 minutes.
Oh,
Not a
nice.
problem. I know how to navigate airports and travel and that sort of thing. But
You're like a
you know,
CNN reporter for like addiction. That's fabulous. You're ready in 10 minutes. You can get on the road. Wow.
yes,
That's amazing. I love
my
that
wife
human touch.
my wife envies me because when I was on the road, I could power nap for 10 minutes,
Uh-huh.
go to a radio interview, power nap for 10 minutes, go do a sound check, do a
Yeah.
show, stay up all night doing God knows what.
Right.
We had a few of those tours. The Tom Petty tour was one of them, and In Excess tour was another one.
In excess. Wow.
Yeah,
Another
yeah.
tragedy.
Anyway, I can pack a bag and be anywhere I need to be, and I've been around the United States, and I remember getting a call and having to go to Paris that afternoon. You know,
Wow.
um, uh, and my wife, she understands that I have to go.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a major rock and roll band that I spent 6 months on the road with. I won't mention their name, of course, but they wanted me in New York that afternoon, and I said, "Well, you know what? You've lasted 40 years without me. I think you can wait till tomorrow. I need to go home and say goodbye to my wife, and I'll see you in Manhattan tomorrow." Uh, I mean, I was really slumming it, flying around on a private jet, with this major rock and roll band. It was great, great
You
stuff.
can't say who it is, really?
Pardon me?
You can't say who it is?
Uh, that's confidential.
Oh, confidential. Okay. Didn't you go on the road with them?
Yes, for
Okay.
months.
Oh, all right. No worries.
And it
Um,
must have worked because they're still at it today in their 80s, those guys.
oh, I,
Anyway,
yeah.
um,
Hey,
back
let's
to
go
your
back to your social media, because one of the things that came up on another show is the whole isolation and limited community available to men. And I believe that the addiction statistics still lean towards men versus women. I could be wrong on that. I haven't checked them in quite some time. So, but any perspective on how this has impacted your practice? I think male depression is on the rise, male isolationism. The communities of males are much more limited. So, I would anticipate that has a place in your practice.
Sure, it does. Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to reference some of the outcomes that when I worked for a program for the Department of Public Health. It was a program in Massachusetts called Hope House. And I was the assistant to the clinical director and doing the outcomes. And we learned that, 30% of the people, 29 to 31% of the people would actually stay in the program and complete the program, meaning that they would stay for 6 months. Around the same amount, 30%, would disappear or drop out. And then, of course, you have another 30% that would experience a lapse or relapse while in treatment. And this was what led me to medication-assisted treatment, because that is a big number. And then, of course, the remaining 10% is jails, institutions, and death. Alcoholism or substance use disorder is a deadly disease, and it's treatable. It is treatable. Recovery is possible. Years ago, Dr. Ann Alonso from Mass General Hospital, she was the head of the advancement of psychotherapy. May she rest in peace. She said, Woody, you're going to have to become comfortable being not only the voice of recovery, but the face of addiction, and she was right. I needed to go public. That's why I wrote my book. That's why I felt free, the certain amount of freedom to explore a project like Rock Bottom, the rock opera, which, as you said, is an extension of the work that I've been doing for 3 decades.
Tell the viewers what Rock Bottom is.
So rock opera, a rock opera called Rock Bottom, and you can go to rockbottom.band to learn more about it. I was at the clinic, and this young man was experiencing difficulty coming in and out of treatment, going in and out and relapsing. And I looked at him and I said, are you done? And I say that in the most respectful way. Are you done? Because I kind of feel like you've hit rock bottom. So he said, yeah. He felt that connection.
Yeah.
And I immediately went home at the end of the day, sat at my piano and wrote a song called Rock Bottom. And then I called up my friend Simon Kirk, and I called up my other friend Tony V, who is a Boston comedy legend. And I said, you guys, I have this concept. It's a love story. In a Shakespearean way, it's a love story, it's a comedy, and it's a tragedy about 2 people who fall in love in the throes of addiction. But we're going to make it a musical so we can really raise the spirits. But I want to address the stigma around addiction. I want to make addiction a conversation. Yeah. So it's going to be much like in the spirit of, I don't know, Tommy or Jesus Christ Superstar. And I'm an old schooler, so I would throw in West Side Story. It's a love story that is going to become a powerful soundtrack, which will be hopefully released by the fall of this year.
Wow.
Yeah. Yesterday.
When you say release, you still shopping it, or do you have a place to put it on?
Well, we want everything to come together and have it on stage as a musical and release the soundtrack.
Okay.
Over the weekend, G.E. Smith from the Saturday Night Live band
Sure.
played on guitar track, as
Okay.
well as Derek Trucks. Derek
Oh,
Trucks from
Derek
the
Trucks is
Allman
awesome.
Brothers, and
Sure.
Susie's
Yeah.
husband.
He's
Yeah,
touring now. Yeah.
yeah, yep, yep. What an amazing guitar player.
Right.
Also, Tom Hamilton from Aerosmith uh, played on a bass on the tracks, and he's a part of our advisory board as well. He's very much interested in the work that I'm doing,
Okay.
and obviously there are some ties there because of the music business
Absolutely.
kind of. But Simon Kirk and I both sing and play drums and play multiple instruments. Simon is a fabulous multi-instrumentalist.
Okay.
And when I called him and said, I've got a song, I sent it over to him. He said, let's work on this. And
Nice.
he was in with both feet. We've been working on this since the pandemic, for that matter.
Got it.
Yeah, for
Awesome.
years to develop this. So that's why my goal is 2026 is going to be a big year. We're going to finally release this thing.
I saw Great Gatsby at this great small theater in Boston, and I cannot remember the name, but it sounds like this would be perfect there. It would be perfect. They had an amazing stage and very, very unique compared to the Broadway version. So if I'll have to follow up with you. I'm sure you know it, but I can't remember the name. That is an exciting project. I think it really brings together all the great elements of Woody Giessmann. And one question I ask all my guests is, Woody, so what is your superpower? What will people remember about you?
I hope that it's kindness and love. Because I've been running a family group for 10 years now, over 10 years. And I like and this is why I wrote my book, that things can be done. I know that substance use disorder can be very disturbing to family members, and it can really affect the functions of the family member's brain as much as the person with an active addiction or mental health issue. But the best way to go about this is to do it with love, to do it with respect, to do it with total transparency. I'm here to help you. I am not here to hurt you. You've been doing a pretty darn good job of hurting yourself. You don't need my help in that department. And as we say in the first step of the 12-step process, which I'm a member of, the 12-step fellowship, that you may be powerless over drugs and alcohol and whatever other process addiction, gambling and sex and food, that your life became unmanageable. But I want to say, and I say this with love, it's upset. You're upset, and there's that self-loathing going on. But I want to reach deep down inside, and I want to find that hope, and I want to do it with love and teach you to love yourself. And you can make those amends to the people that you've created this disastrous world of fractured relationships. Those can wait. But for today, my superpower would be we do it with love.
That's
Spiritual
amazing.
principles. The spiritual principles of love,
yeah,
and the spiritual principles of recovery
yeah,
are with honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness.
That's incredible. We at Humanity in the Age of AI, we really believe in this AI world that people are still the future. And in each part of this program, you've shared so many different human elements that you think are critical to your practice despite AI apocalypse that's going on right now. So we love to hear stories about this. I really appreciate you, so sorry about your brother, but thank you for sharing how that's impacted you and how things have changed since then. And I would hope that, that there's a cradle of love like you define, for people that are searching. If families or patients want to get in touch with you, Woody, how do they do that? And I'll send you my tablet track to put into the musical as well.
Okay. I would love that. I would actually welcome that. It's very cool. So if you wanted to reach out to me, you can go to my website, which is very simply cut that. You could reach out to my website at recoveryour.life. Recoveryour, all one word, .life.
Got it. Fantastic. We really appreciate you and all the stories that you've shared. Thanks so much for being on the program today, Woody. And, I hope that our paths cross in Boston sometime soon.
I'm always here.
All right.
Thank you.